All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Millennial Sales Podcast. This is your host, Tommy Tahoe Alemo. We're episode 216 coming at you. Happy Monday. Let's get into it. Got a great guest today. I talked to Mari Fletcher. She is a global sales manager over at Greenlight Guru. Spent a couple of years at Restaurant 365, and in only 3 or 4 years of sales is already managing a team of a ton of AEs that we get into on the call. So really quick growth trajectory for her. I think we had a great conversation around some fun stuff about moving across the country during a pandemic, which has got to be a pretty scary thing to do. We get into leadership. We get into how she chose her company to work for and how she chose her previous company, even though she had already accepted an offer elsewhere. So it's a really great conversation around leadership, not only how to lead, but what type of leaders to look for. So I think you're really going to enjoy it. Before we get to that, I got to take a minute to give a shout out to both of our sponsors here. The first sponsor for the podcast is Gong Io. I love Gong so much that I work there. I started working there earlier this year after seeing it in action, after getting pitched it, and then after meeting a handful of people there. It was a no-brainer. So Gong is the revenue intelligence platform. It is irresponsible to be a VP of sales or a CRO and not have Gong at your company. I'll say it point blank. It's where you're able to not only coach your reps, it's where you're able to identify deals in your pipeline, switch over the no's into yeses, turn the yeses into bigger yeses and quicker yeses, and do so much more. So if you're interested, feel free to check them out at gong.io or DM me on LinkedIn. I'm Tom Alemo, and I'll connect you with the right person. The second sponsor that we are brought to you by is Postal Io. I love Postal. I use it essentially, in this whole world of trying to deliver gifts and things to our customers and our prospects and our partners that will delight them. We're past the point where you're able to just mass send something out and do it in a way at scale that's really unpersonalized. So what Postal helps you do is to really do it in a personalized fashion. You can do it from the brewery that's down the street to the florist on your corner, and give people really personalized gifts. They're also doing something right now that anyone that leaves a review to this podcast, you leave a 5-star review on Apple, they're going to give you a free Starbucks gift card. So all you gotta do is leave a review and then post it on LinkedIn, or even just DM it to me on LinkedIn, and then I will send you the link. Free coffee, tea, coffee cake, whatever the hell you want over at Starbucks, we'll get that out to you. So please support this show in 3 ways. Support our sponsors, Gong, support Postal, and then please head over to Apple, subscribe, leave a review. I'm on Spotify, we're on YouTube, we're all over the place. So show some love to the show, and that's what helps keep this thing going after about 3.5 years. So enough out of me. Let's get straight into my conversation with Mari Fletcher. Let's go. All right, Mari Fletcher coming at us from Indianapolis, Indiana. Good morning. Welcome to Millennial Sales.
Hey, Tom. Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. How's everything going this morning?
Everything has been going well. It's right around 10:30. Had some coffee. Had a good day of meetings so far. So no complaints. How about you?
Nice. Yeah, it's all good. A little earlier over here, but we're up and at 'em and trying to make some things happen today. So real quick, we were just talking before we aired that you moved out to Indy about like 6 months ago, last summer. Probably maybe not how you drew it up, like moving to a place. I don't know if you'd ever been there before, but definitely moving to a new city during a pandemic, getting a new job. How did all that shake out for you? How's it been so far?
Oh my goodness. I think that the universe just fundamentally does not want you to relocate cross country during a pandemic because it was an absolute disaster. Everything that could have went wrong did. My stuff got lost. I got COVID. I mean, it was just everything that could have went wrong. But I look back at it so fondly. This is the best thing that could have happened, and I'm so happy to be here.
Nice. How has moving to a new city been in terms of like knowing people, like, did you know people when you moved to India, or have you been able to meet people in a pandemic? Like that all seems kind of tough too.
Yeah, it all has been challenging, definitely. I came out once before I relocated here to go house shopping, and I ended up just finding a really solid group of friends. So my
Oh, cool.
realtor is one of my best friends.
Wow.
Everyone else that I work with has just been really close knit, and it's been wonderful. Like, people in the Midwest are so nice and so accommodating. So it was really easy to just fit in, and everyone let me into their circle. So I thought about, what's it like to move and not know anyone? And it's been better than I could have imagined.
People in the Midwest are amazing. I'm from Boston originally, and unless you're like blood related, like everyone's kind of an asshole. And you go to
Oh,
the Midwest and everyone is, especially like you notice it driving, everyone's always letting you like merge in and like waving. And it's just it's such a good place. So if you were to move anywhere during a pandemic where it's hard to meet people, I feel like the Midwest is the perfect place to go.
Oh, for sure. I mean, Midwest nice is a real thing. I grew up in Madison, Wisconsin. I went to UW, and people are nice there, but people here are nice to the extreme. So it was super, super welcoming, which is awesome.
Yeah, I love that. That's great. Well, hopefully things are, you got all the bad stuff out of the way in the first 6 months, and now you can, rip it up and love the city and, go on with your friends and have a great job and all that good stuff. So sometimes you just got to get the shit out of the way early.
Oh my goodness, you could not have said it better. Yeah, it's been great.
So, the reason that you're on this show today, and the reason that we got introduced is you got tagged in one of my posts as, someone said that you were one of the best salespeople that they knew. And so I'm excited to talk with you and learn from you. You've had a really quick rise from your last two roles, and now running a sales team of 14 AEs after only a few years in sales. So, like, I'd love to learn both as a salesperson, what made you successful, and then some of the learnings that you have nowadays as a sales manager and getting ramped up in that role.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think back to, being an SDR at this teeny tiny office in Austin, Texas, where the roof literally collapsed at one point. I mean, the air conditioning went out in July in Texas, like, just all the way back to the beginning. And the first cold call I ever made, right? I had never been an SDR. It was my first job out of college, and someone had opened my email a bunch of times. So I got on the call and I was super nervous, right? It's rapid fire. And he goes, I'm not really interested in this product. I go, well, you opened my email 14 times, so I think you're interested, right? And just learning from doing, I think, is one of the biggest pieces of advice I can give you. Be vulnerable, lean into the feedback. The people around you have great coaching to give, but don't be afraid to make mistakes, because I can tell you I have made more than my fair share of them. And every single time it makes me better. So I think that's one of the biggest things I would say is just don't be afraid.
Totally. Anyone that has had, a major outbound role, SDR or AE or whatever it might be, like, has some horror stories. If you've done it more than like probably 6 months to a year, just some major horror stories of people that you called that, they're absolute, jerk, and they hung up on you, or they swore at you, or they humiliated you, or, you called someone like the wrong name, or you called and like they didn't work, like all these just different scenarios that, like, it's just so intimidating to pick up the phone, especially early on. And then to have it go so poorly, can just be so demoralizing. So I think having that mindset of like, yeah, you know what, I'm going to fail. Let's chalk that up. I'm going to try to learn from it. And having a boss, hopefully, that can help encourage that too in you early on, to know that that's okay, and to know that that's all part of the process.
100%. And I think that's one of the biggest things too, right? You mentioned I bounced around a little bit. Taking a leader that you want to work for instead of the company that you want to work for is really pivotal in defining your success and where you want to go in your career, right? Because a company is invested in your outcome, but a leader is invested in you attaining your potential. And so surrounding yourself by people that make you better, I think, is the most important thing that you can do in your career.
What do you look for in like a manager if you were interviewing a bunch of places? Like what would stand out to you as someone you'd want to work for?
Yeah. I can tell you the first time. So when I took my last role the first time around, I actually had accepted another job offer, and I had this interview scheduled, and tech is a small scene, so I didn't want to burn any bridges. So I kind of just took it as a courtesy call, and I got on the phone with him, and it was just the passion. I immediately knew that was the person I wanted to work for. That's the person that's going to make me better. He's going to level me up. And so I tucked my tail between my legs. I turned down the other company, and it was a risky move in my book because I was straight out of college, and this, that role had paid less than the other one. And it was, more in the variable than the base. And so it was just this weird dynamic of, it doesn't seem like a sure thing, but something is telling me that this is a person I can trust, and this is a person I want to work with. And so dove in head first, and now here we are.
Were there any negative repercussions from that decision of the first place? That's like kind of a touchy subject, like to accept it and then to kind of turn back on it.
Not really. They were very kind and accommodating. I think being on this side of it now, I understand a little bit more, that it happens that people turn down job offers. At that point though, I just took it upon myself like, oh no, I told them yes, and now I'm going back on it. And it's a horrible thing to do, but it's, it's pretty common. Not every offer we put out gets accepted either. So I see that side of it now.
Yeah. I mean, it's a gutsy move though, coming straight out of college for your first job. Like, I remember when I got my job offer, I was like, all right, I'm done. I'm not going to interview anywhere else. I'm, like it was while I was still at school. I'm like, as long as I don't fail out, like I got a job and I'm good. So good on you for, having the courage to kind of follow your intuition there.
Yeah, it was best thing that could have happened, right? I mean, I bartended all the way through college. And so the first job was in the restaurant industry, and it was in tech, and it merged the two things that I wanted to do. So it just seemed like a really logical intersection between where I had been and where I wanted to go. And then just the person that could make me feel like I could achieve anything. All of those together it was a really no-brainer for me.
It's really kind of like a gut feeling too. Like when you meet someone that, like that's what you kind of say. You're like, this guy's going to help me out. Like, I don't really know how, I don't really know like what it is about him, but like, he's just going to help me get better. And it's one of those things that it's hard to put into words. It's hard to like write that down of what that really looks like. But when you know, and you just kind of feel it in your stomach. And I would encourage folks that when they have that type of a moment to like really pursue it and really kind of lean into that.
Absolutely. And I think it's really rare to be able to meet someone and just trust them like that, right? Because by the time you're interviewing for jobs, something likely isn't going right somewhere else that's encouraging you to take that next step. So once you meet that person that's, we can build something together. It's a really cool feeling, and being able to capitalize on it, change your life.
Yeah, totally. So nowadays you're managing, I think 14 AEs, which is a lot. I had a role before where I was a player coach, and I was selling, and then I managed 4 people. And doing those two things, I was like, oh shit, this is hard. So I'm thinking about 14 different people is a lot. So how's that going? Like, tell me about the experience so far.
It's been an awesome experience. So I hired 4 of them. The rest were already there when I started. And so I've gotten to just see people grow in their careers. A few of them came from the SDR side of the house, and I remember feeling like that, right? So leveling them up into AEs. A few of them, were external hires that had sales experience and are wonderful at that. And then getting to see them learn the industry. Like, everyone is at a very different point. And I love that because it keeps it different. When I hire people, I want something that separates you from the crowd. And I don't want a bunch of people who think exactly the same, because I really believe that just different perspectives make us all better. And so the fact that everyone is, just needs something a little bit different, no coaching session is the same. And that keeps me from going crazy.
I was going to say, how can one spend enough time on all of those, like the one-on-ones alone with all of those people? That's 30 minutes with each. That's 7 take every other week or however often you're doing it. Take take that with all the other calls that you have, the forecasting, the this, the that, like, how do you, I have to imagine that time management has been a huge transition for you from being an AE to being a manager. Like, do you have any thoughts or tips around that for the first time managers out there?
Yeah. So I think the biggest thing is, to just remember that it's not a 9 to 5. So figure out what you can do during your workday, and then figure out what really makes you happy, right? Because there's a difference between a job and a career. Like, this is my passion. So at night when I'm sitting relaxing in front of the TV, I'm also looking at a spreadsheet, or, I'm doing a call review, or there's other things going on, but they don't feel like work because it's something that I just care so deeply about. So I don't really have too hard of a time managing my time, because I can do most of it during a work day, and then the rest just doesn't feel like work. So I would say my biggest piece of advice for new managers is find your favorite piece of the job and take that offline, because it doesn't feel like you're working then.
Yeah. When you say that this is something that you're passionate about, do you mean sales? Do you mean like leading humans? Do you mean like what Greenlight Guru does? Like, or, maybe there's a combination, but what specifically is it that you're so passionate about?
All the above. I mean, I think scaling SaaS companies to me is just the coolest thing, and being able to be a part of it. And, this is my second time seeing it now. When I started the first company, there was 20 people in the sales department. At the peak, there was 115, right? So hyper growth. And then doing it all over again, and doing it on the manager side of the house this time, has just been so exciting. So I am deeply invested in my team's outcomes. I care about their professional development. I care about the sales and the company and the mission, right? All of it works together, and it creates this amazing culture. And so I love what I do.
And honestly, like, of the vast majority of people, if you just ask a random person on the street, would not be able to say that. So I think that's amazing, and something that people should strive to kind of find out. And I think it's fortunate. I feel similarly, and I feel fortunate to have found that so early in my career as well. So even for the people out there that maybe that isn't resonating with them, if it is, that's great. You're on the right track. If it's not, I would say probably like, keep trying different things, and like keep testing, and it's not a bad thing to necessarily bounce around, or at least bounce your interests around, and people that you're talking with and things like that, to try to find what that right path is going to be.
Absolutely. And try not to get complacent, right? It's really hard to grow where you're comfortable. So when you're figuring out what that next step looks like, usually it's going to be outside of the thing you already know how to do, and that'll push you and make you better. And if you're not trying to continually improve, what are you doing, right?
Yeah. Hey, I'm with you. So as we're wrapping up here, like what resources, what other things have helped you on your path, whether it's like particular books or podcasts, or people that you follow, or anything outside of, maybe the companies that you've worked at that have contributed to your growth at all? I'm always curious. I'm always looking for the next thing to kind of consume and learn from too.
Absolutely. Have you read the book Strategic Selling?
I haven't.
So
Who wrote that?
It's Miller Hyman.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm a huge process person. That is my thing. I am process over product. Like, that is the way you win. It's repeatable every single time, right? And that book was the blueprint to how I figured out how to map sales out. Someone very early in my career said, hey, pick this up, do this, and you will win. And so far that's held true. I mean, gotta refuse to lose, but that book is a great blueprint for how exactly you're going to map deals out, and how you're going to always have a repeatable process and make sure your bases are covered.
I love that. Well, I learned something. I'm going to Amazon directly after this call and ordering that up, because I'm similar. I'm like type A. I like the process. I like to have a system, and I've built that in a lot of different ways in sales, and even outside of sales, like just in life, and always feel like I do better and feel better when I'm like, all right, I know what the game plan is here. I just need to do the steps.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there are very few things you can control, but being prepared and having a process and putting the time in is one of those things. So if you do that every single time, you're going to have a good outcome.
I love it. Mari, this was great. I love learning from you. Any last words that you have for the sellers out there, sales managers, SDRs, anyone else that's listening, to help kind of like, either motivate them or uplift them or anything like that. And then obviously, where can people connect with you if they want to chat with you or learn more about you and what you're all about?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think my biggest piece of advice is just refuse to lose, right? Be relentless in something, whatever that thing is for you, pick that and chase it wholeheartedly, because that's where you find happiness. So that would be my biggest piece of advice through and through and through. And you can find me on LinkedIn, and you can find me via my email, mari.fletcher@greenlight.guru. And I'm always happy to have a conversation.
That's awesome. I love the refuse to lose. And people you have her work email. Don't be trying to prospect her now, reach out if you want to connect, but don't be trying to sell whatever technology that you have. All right.
It'll be rare that I respond to a cold email. I got a good one the other day, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah. Okay, let me just ask that. So if someone cold calls you or cold emails you, do you, like, if it's a good one, like, even if you don't want the product, even if you're like, that's not a good fit, do you respond?
If it's a good one, I do. If I can tell it's a generic template, there's not a chance I'm responding. Sorry everyone listening. But I'll leave you with one quick note. So yeah, I had someone reach out to me on LinkedIn the other day. Great connection. And he just said, hey, I love this article you shared. Here's my thoughts on it. If you want to connect with me though, you have to be willing to hire me. Here's my resume. I was like, oh, ooh, that's bold. I love it. And I didn't have an opening, but I put that resume in front of multiple other people because that is clever, and things like that make you different. And I look for different and special. So if it's good, I will always take the call or always respond, because I appreciate that.
That is a great move. I'm so glad you said that. For anyone out there that's looking, we've said it on the show a lot, like, it's not enough to just like, toss the resume in and like, fingers crossed. Like, that's a great move. I love that.
Oh, 100%. I sent it around. Someone has to talk to this guy. I don't have a position. If I did, I would be talking to him, but there's something special there. So
yeah, I love that. I love that. Well, Mari, thank you for spending some time on the show, sharing your wisdom. For everyone out there, make sure that you are refusing to lose this week and stay at it. So thanks so much for joining the show.
Yeah, thanks, Tom. Have a great day.
All right. Thanks for checking out that episode. Happy April, happy Q2 to everyone out there that's getting after it. Again, this podcast was brought to you by gong.io and postal.io. So great way to support me is to support our sponsors. Again, if you leave a review on Apple, I will send you a free Starbucks gift card, courtesy of Postal. So shout out to the sponsors. Shout out to the guests today. Enjoy your day. Let's get after it. See you next time. Peace.